Let's talk some fantasy football, everybody. It is the month of May, which means there is still a long time before September and the games kick off, but it is firmly draft season. Best ball drafts underway. We got dynasty, rookie drafts, everything going on right now. We're going to take your questions live on air and get you set for the summer months of fantasy football. Welcome on into the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here by Ryan Williams. You saw Ryan on Twitch last week breaking down his dynasty rookie drafts, and you saw him on our NFL Drafts live stream as well. Ryan, how are you doing today?
Man, it's good to talk to you again, Jim. It seems like forever. We're about a month in. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm the rookie still, but
if you make it through two separate 5-hour streams as your christening for all of this stuff, you're a veteran, man. You don't have to report to the OTAs. You're good. You can wait until things kick up in June.
Perfect. I'm gonna skip out on voluntary OTAs here at FanDuel, but no, it's been fun, man. Been doing a lot of stuff with best ball content on the Hurry Up series, so hopefully everybody's been able to check that out. I think some stuff just dropped today with me and Ariel breaking down Julio landing spots, and I know it's gonna be interesting. I know we're gonna talk about Julio a lot because he's the topic of discussion right now currently, but hey, I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to talk with you about Cooper Kupp. Let's get after it.
Oh, well, wow. Rough start there. Maybe we do need to send you to rookie minicamp. I don't know. We'll talk about this. And then we're not talking about Cooper Kupp. How dare you? You can follow Ryan on Twitter if you have not already at @RyanAlexander_W. Make sure you check him out there. Doing a lot of stuff with Ryan over the coming months. And what we're doing today is taking your questions live here, no matter where you're watching. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, does not matter where. Get those questions in. We'll answer them live here on air. Michael's already said hi. What's up, Michael, over on YouTube? We appreciate that. If you got any questions, make sure you check in. Let us know what is on your mind right now for fantasy. You got some drafts coming up, whatever it may be. Some guys who may be of interest to you, some players you don't know how to diagnose for this year. Let us know. We'll cover those questions live here on air for today. But let's start things off here with what you mentioned, Ryan. Let's talk about Julio Jones, because as someone who has watched Julio Jones for a long time, the thought of seeing him in a different uniform is upsetting to me. I would love for Julio to be paired with what has in the past been a high-volume passing offense for his entire career. Seeing him go elsewhere would make me a little bit sad. But obviously, it sounds like Julio's probably going to be on the move. He most likely can't be traded until after June 1 due to salary cap stuff. So it's not going to happen yet. We can talk about it because that is kind of the buzz right now, trying to figure out where Julio may go. I'm going to ask you, Ryan, among the realistic destinations, we're not talking fantasy land here, we could send him anywhere. The Chiefs would be fun, but probably not going to happen. So if we're talking realistic landing spots, which one excites you most as a fantasy player for Julio Jones?
Well, Jim, this is tough. I mean, like I said, I just did this with Hurry Up and, tried to I'm a contrarian guy, but I tried to think about situations that absolutely made sense. Two destinations that I didn't talk about were New England. That would just be disgusting. And then San Francisco, which is kind of interesting. I mean, as far as, he wants to win now, go to a competitor. That's what he said on FS1, whether he knew it or not, that he was being recorded. But that, I think wherever he goes is going to be great, probably from a football perspective, from a real football perspective. There's no other place that I think he can go that's going to be exciting or as exciting from a fantasy perspective as Atlanta. And we talked about this on the draft show, when things were going down. Matt Ryan is not an exciting guy for fantasy. He doesn't offer that rushing upside, but you're looking at a quarterback here who led the league last year in pass attempts. And that was only with Julio playing 9 games healthy. And then you're talking about, Russell Gage getting 100 targets in that offense, Kyle Pitts being added in, what's he going to do for this year? I think that was the exciting thing just overall about Atlanta, was being able to keep this, core together here offensively. And with only having Mike Davis really as running back, it was sky's the limit for this passing offense. I digress on my frustration there, but I think the Colts is definitely a fun situation when you're talking about a team that can actually land him. And, as far as the cap goes, and just somebody who needs an alpha wide receiver, I talked about it with Ariel. Like I said, Carson Wentz is not going to be the guy that really takes the league by storm, right? I mean, this is a guy that you can get in best balls right now, basically like 15th round or later in an 18-round draft. So I still think people are down on him. But if Julio were to go there, he immediately, becomes a viable fantasy threat when you're looking at just competing with a guy like T.Y. Hilton, who he's getting up there in age and is not as dynamic as Julio, even if Julio's not 100%. And then you got a guy like Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell coming off of injury. And, the Colts playing in that division in the AFC South, that really is exciting, both from a fantasy perspective and a real life perspective. So I love that landing spot for him there.
We're not talking betting today, but that's what comes to my mind when I hear about Julio to the AFC South, because I don't know what to think of the AFC South. I have been trying to be off the Titans for this entire offseason. I'm annoyed about Jonnu being gone, Corey Davis being gone, changes along the offensive line, no Arthur Smith. I have been trying to find ways to be out on Atlanta, but I don't find anyone else stepping up. Houston's not going to be it. Jacksonville, I'm not super high on, despite Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer, and Indy. I feel like it's a quarterback downgrade from Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz. So, I want to find someone to ride in the AFC South, but it's really tough to get excited about anybody. The thing is, my big concern with Tennessee is pass catchers. Julio Jones immediately would help that. I have them winning the division right now. If you give them Julio, that's going to help things out quite a bit, make me feel better about them. Probably not doing more outside of the AFC South. I don't think they're a contender for an AFC outright or anything like that, but it would help me feel good about the divisional odds. With Indy, the big concern I have there is I'm expecting regression from a passing efficiency perspective, because I don't think Carson Wentz is right now as good of a quarterback as Phillip Rivers. So I have to, project in a step back there. Anthony Costanzo retiring is a downgrade. Eric Fisher might not be ready till October. There's some concerns there. Julio would help both those teams a lot. So it's relevant for fantasy, but I also think Julio's hyper relevant for betting. The other thing too is we talked a couple of times during the live stream on the draft about how I liked Atlanta's win total at the time. I think at Fox Bet it was 7.5. It came out at FanDuel Sportsbook 8. That annoyed me because I knew I was going to bet the Falcons over, and now I feel like I can, especially with this Julio stuff happening. So fantasy implications, betting implications as well. So you're thinking maybe Colts might be the optimal landing spot. I've heard, or it seems like there is some buzz that the Titans could be in contention. What would that do to you, first of all, for Julio? Let's go with Julio first, because he's kind of the main topic here, but also, would that make you pause with A.J. Brown going at the back end of the second round, or would there still be enough there and enough efficiency out of A.J. Brown himself to make A.J. Brown still be worth it at the back end of the second round?
No, you know what? Actually, I was thinking about this earlier today, and I think a lot of people, when we look, and this happens amongst a lot of people in the industry, right? You look at a situation and, okay, so we're excited about A.J. Brown, or people are excited about A.J. Brown because he's the only weapon there, right? That we can see for the target share. And in some way, shape, or forms, you look at a guy like Devontae Adams and things like that. That's great. But also, we know that Derrick Henry, is going to run the ball. They're going to give him, his work. And honestly, from the perspective, I think that Julio going there takes some pressure off of A.J. Brown, which could be better because he is a dynamic deep ball threat. He can get a couple of those a game and really pay off. I don't really know, how that target share. The target share is not something that I'm thinking about with A.J. Brown because of the situation. If he's the only guy there, I could see defenses really selling out to try and stop him as best as they can, right? And trying to take away that game, and not having Corey Davis there to kind of stretch the field as well. I think, it hurts a little bit as far as where he's going. Now, if Julio lands there, I think he will go up a little bit. I think A.J. Brown will come up, and that would make me a little bit more excited for him, ironically, because I just think it would take pressure off, free him up, and we'd be able to, see that offense go. But without Arthur Smith being there, it's Todd Downing now as the offensive coordinator. I just don't know what to expect from the Titans in general. I'm honestly down on the Titans offense completely, especially where these guys are going. I'm just not going to invest in Derrick Henry where he's going. I'm not going to invest in A.J. Brown where he's going currently. And I don't really, it's not that enticing of a fantasy landing spot from my perspective for Julio Jones. But you do look at the targets that are gone. We're looking at 200 targets gone between Jonnu and Corey Davis for the Titans. So you do love that if that can be sustainable with Todd Downing. I don't know enough about him to bank on that.
Well, I think that what you said is pertinent there. You were talking about how if Julio's there, can take some pressure off of A.J. Brown. The reason that matters, not just for A.J. Brown, but for Derrick Henry, is because a lot of what they do is dependent on efficiency. And if the Titans have fewer good pieces on their offense, they're not going to be as efficient. So if you're banking on A.J. Brown being efficient with his targets, you're not going to get there if they just can't move the ball because everyone knows where the ball is going. With Derrick Henry, you need positive game script. That's dependent on efficiency. You're dependent on touchdowns. Same thing there. So it would not bump me up on A.J. Brown if he got Julio Jones there, but it's not going to push me off of him. I think that having a top-end wide receiver season is still within his range of outcomes. And, you look at the guys around A.J. Brown right now. You got Antonio Gibson's there, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson. Those are all guys with really good ceilings. So I'm not saying that A.J. Brown's someone you must get there, especially if they get Julio and it cuts into his overall target projection, but I think that he's viable there, and I think that that's a key thing. And it would help Henry, too, if they get Julio Jones. Might come back to Julio in a bit, but I want to get to a question from Howard here over on YouTube. He's asking us to size up the Steelers. Can Roethlisberger make it through the season? Juju and Claypool have value if Mason Rudolph has to replace Ben. So I would be wary there. Although Big Ben played really poorly down the stretch last year, we saw Mason Rudolph get his reps. It was not great. I know he played better. I think it was the Browns that he got the audition against last year. But it was rough. So I feel like for me, Ryan, let's check out the ADPs here on the Pittsburgh guys. We've got Deontay Johnson going at pick 49. Najee Harris going at pick 16. Claypool is pick 65. Juju's pick 66. So none of these guys are really coming at a discount, despite the struggles of last year, despite the fact the offensive line is probably going to be a bottom 5 unit. I find it really difficult to get jazzed about anyone at their current draft slot. I think that Najee is justifiable. I'm not going to say no there, but it's hard to get excited. Maybe Deontay, but I feel like for me personally, Howard, I'm having a hard time getting there. What about you, Ryan? What are your thoughts on the Pittsburgh offense, where they're currently going?
Yeah, for somebody that's done probably, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 best ball drafts, I probably have probably no Steelers receiver shares. And I think I have maybe 1 or 2 teams that have Najee on them that I'm fine with because I think those were before the draft. You got to like Najee. I mean, people will balk at 16, I think is where you said he was going. And I've seen him go in the first round. You definitely second round for sure. He's not making it to the third round in the best balls drafts that I've been doing, that I've seen. But you're locking in a workhorse back. Much has been made about how Tomlin utilizes the number 1 back, even James Conner, Le'Veon Bell, those are obvious options. But then D'Angelo Williams had a great year when he was the lead back, stepping in for injuries. I mean, he just likes to lean on one guy. That's what Tomlin has always done. So we can feel confident about that. I think, the discount is Ben. If you want to be able to have exposure to the offense and you can stomach that, because Ben is going late rounds, and I know a lot of people talk about, we even have JJ late round QB, getting a guy late, can make some sense because the defense isn't, they're going to be healthy, but we know that they've struggled. We saw it in the Cleveland game in the playoffs. This defense is probably going to be giving up points. And, we know that Ben likes to throw. And even in that Cleveland game in the playoffs, I mean, the Steelers were getting boat raced, but you still had Ben Roethlisberger putting up 504. I mean, he is just he throws. I mean, you got to love that. He will throw for passing attempts, and he is a gamer. He's going to go out there and he's not going to, let the offense fail. So I do think that there is some some risk reward with the Steelers offense at definitely their current ADPs, but you got to like a guy like Deontay Johnson, even though he has the dropsies. I still feel confident in him because his target share was absolutely enormous with this team. I think Claypool, he's getting overhyped. I mean, people are excited about him, and I am too. But, if it wasn't for the, 3 or 4 touchdown game, that really set him apart.
Trace Claypool. Trace Claypool.
Right?
It might have been 4, actually. I think you're right. But yeah,
I think it was, he had the 4 touchdown game. And
I think it was 3 receiving and 1 rushing because he was their goal line back last year.
That's right. Exactly. So, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. But I think Deontay Johnson would definitely be the guy that I target. Maybe Julio has a bounce back year. They're definitely going to be running a ton of 3 wide receiver sets. So you're excited about that. If those guys do fall, past their current ADP, I think you can start looking at them.
Yeah, Juju's tough for me to get to just because he's not going to get the high leverage targets that we want, like at least based on last year. Like he got some red zone work, but he wasn't getting downfield work like Claypool was. If I'm going to take swings at an offense that has the potentially bad, I at least want them to get the high leverage looks. I know that Claypool is going to get those. Deontay more likely to get them. The thing with Deontay's drops, in order to drop the ball, you got to get throwing the ball. And targets are an endorsement of talent. So with the drops for me, don't worry me. He got benched for a little bit, but that's the one thing that drops can lead to. So I'm going to do either or here quick. I want to do either or with late round quarterbacks, focusing on Ben. He's going to quarterback 21 right now. Big Ben or Daniel Jones?
Big Ben.
Okay. I think I agree. Because I don't like Daniel Jones. Fumbles are bad, and he loves to fumble.
Fumbles are bad.
Big Ben or your guy now, Justin Fields?
I would go Justin.
I want that rushing, man.
The rushing is going to be key, and as much as they're trying to make of Andy Dalton, he might start maybe 4 games. And then you can feel confident about Justin Fields as you get into your fantasy playoffs and things like that.
Yeah.
Not have to worry about it.
Give me Justin Fields there. I think this one is interesting. This might just be me because I'm wearing the Dolphins pink right now. Ben Roethlisberger or Tua Tagovailoa? Yeah,
you got to go Tua there. I definitely want some Tua Dolphin stacks and best ball. Which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Tua's the guy there.
Ben Roethlisberger or Derek Carr?
Man, this hurts me, but I got to say Carr.
I think I did too.
I got to say Carr. I feel more confident with his upside there.
Last one, the battle of the olds, Ben Roethlisberger or Fitzmagic?
Give me Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay. I probably lean that way too. I'm not the biggest believer in Ryan Fitzpatrick from a bankability perspective, so I think I can ride you through there. Okay, so Ben is viable. Deontay is viable. Najee, obviously, the volume makes him worth it. But overall, Howard, we're a little bit not super sold on this Pittsburgh offense. Kurt is up in Packerland. Say hello to Wausau, Wisconsin for me, Kurt. Also, Kurt. Apologies for what's going on right now. I feel bad for your mental state. Hopefully you're hanging in there. We're here for you, man. Is Aaron Jones still going to be a top 5 back if Aaron Rodgers does not return? I got bad news, Kurt. He's probably not going to be top 5. And this is my reason behind that. And then Ryan, I want to hear yours. Because, first of all, you can actually get Jones outside the top 5. He's currently the 11th running back taken. I think part of that might be Rodgers paranoia. Paranoia is usually not justified. The Rodgers stuff probably is justified. But right now, Jones is going as the running back 11. The reason I'd be wary of that is we need touchdowns. And I didn't have the highest opinion of Jordan Love coming out, which means that if Jordan Love were to be the starting quarterback of the Packers, I would not expect them to be the world's most efficient passing offense. They've got Bakhtiari coming off a torn ACL. They lost their center, Corey Linsley. They've got guys to replace, Linsley, but downgraded offensive line, not the best pass catchers, which is part of the reason this rift exists. They would not be a top flight offense. And part of Aaron Jones's appeal, a large part of it, outside the fact that he's good at football, is how good this offense is. So Ryan, even at running back 11, I'd have a hard time ranking Aaron Jones there. If you guaranteed me now Aaron Rodgers would not be in town, let's assume for a second little thought exercise that there's no Aaron Jones or no Aaron Rodgers. What are your thoughts on Aaron Jones then?
Yeah, it deflated. You're talking about a guy not only RB5 last year, but in 2019 RB3.
Yeah,
and it really comes down to how they utilize Aaron Jones in the offense. I mean, he's both. We know that the pass catching upside is there with him. I think he saw around 63 targets last year, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of that. And the touchdown equity was just immenseful in 2019, if immenseful is even a word. Immense.
It is now.
It was immense.
I'm into it.
It is now. Right, exactly. No, it's immense because it's Aaron Rodgers, right? Yeah. He leads them down the field. And like 170 something points of Aaron Rodgers came in the red zone. So those guys are just going to be viable for touchdowns when Aaron Rodgers is tied to the team. We have a kid in Jordan Love. We don't know how he is going to fare in the NFL. He's going, basically a rookie, even though he's a sophomore, come in. And I just, there's going to be a lot riding on him. He'll be the next quarterback of the future and following Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, a ton of pressure for a kid to come in. I just don't really want anything to do with that offense. It's really making me question, how I feel about Davante Adams, in Dynasty. I got lucky in a Dynasty league for moving Davante Adams last year for Stephon Diggs. And, how can you get luckier than that, right? I mean, there's more to go with that trade, but essentially, you're looking at a 1-for-1 there. So yeah, in the top 5, I think that's definitely out of the realm of possibility. Can he possibly be an RB1 in this offense? I mean, maybe sure. I do love the talent that Aaron Jones has. And when you're looking at, some of the other guys that are going down there, it's tough. It's going to be tough for him to scratch the surface, I feel like, with the touchdown equity to get into that range that we would look for at his current ADP.
Yeah. And I think that if you guaranteed me now that Rodgers would be there, I'd feel great about Aaron Jones going to RB11. Absolutely. And it's part of the reason that you said the way they use him. That's so key with him because it's not a lot of running back targets are garbage. They're just, they're dump offs. It was I think Zeke a couple years ago had 7 targets a game for negative 43 error. It was something ridiculous. But Aaron Jones gets creative targets. It's kind of like the Andy Reid thing where when Kareem Hunt was there, he'd be getting downfield looks down the seam. And when those targets come from Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be a lot of productivity. So if you guaranteed me Aaron Rodgers were the starting quarterback, I'd feel great about Aaron Jones, but it does worry me with where he's going right now, given the ambiguity around that situation. Now, you mentioned Davante Adams. You've been doing best ball drafts, and the problem we have, Ryan, is we don't know when we're drafting right now whether Aaron Rodgers will be there. So how have you been handling the Packers? Have you been making the assumption that Rodgers is there? Have you been wary of them as a result of the ambiguity? How have you been handling the Packers guys, given how much unknown there is on that team?
Yeah, I am handling the situation like we don't have Aaron Rodgers there. I mean, he doesn't want to be there. I don't think there's anything that we can see of semblance after just seeing the Kenny Mayne interview last night that he's already saying his goodbyes. Basically, his farewell tour is happening. He's loving life, just doing whatever, the Jeopardy, Kentucky Derby, letting the hair grow out. I think the
hair is questionable. He's a handsome guy. I don't know why the hair thing is happening. I'm questioning that.
Yeah. So, and I mean, even looking at some of the ADPs here, going ahead of AJ Brown can't justify that. Going ahead of DK Metcalf, even DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, you really just can't justify it right now with a guy like Jordan Love, who's unproven. Yeah. And I love Davante Adams' talent, but I've just been a void of the Packers situation, except for when you're looking at, the getting late round RBs and things of that nature. There's no Jamal Williams now. So do we see AJ Dillon spelling Aaron Jones, which Aaron Jones wasn't seeing a full complement of snaps, pretty much in his career. And we know they got high round draft equity and invested in AJ Dillon from, 2 years ago now. So AJ Dillon is an interesting piece for me. If the draft shapes out in a way that I can land him late and he's like my RB, 4 or 5 even, I feel, decent about that. That's the only piece that I have currently right now.
I think the good thing with AJ Dillon too is the Aaron Jones not getting a full workload thing is a conscious decision they make to maintain him. Like,
Right.
Matt LaFleur said that flat out. Like, there's a reason why his snap rate is 60 to 70% during the regular seasons, because they want him fresh for when it matters. So that's not going to go away. Someone's going to get that work, and it's probably going to be AJ Dillon. So I think that's good to recommend. One thing I'd also say too is something we talk a lot about here on the Heat Check Fantasy podcast, and me and Brandon, and also John Daigle of NBC Sports Edge brought up on Twitter a couple weeks ago, is making assumptions. So I think that the one time where you could be really in the Packers is if you say, I'm going to just assume right now that the Packers work this out somehow. Get Aaron Rodgers back in town. If you make that assumption, if you tell me 100% certainty Aaron Rodgers is there, you can take Devontae at the back end. You can take Devontae and Aaron Jones to stack this team up. You can go with Robert Tonyan. He's not going as late as I would like, but like if we're making the assumption that Aaron Rodgers is there, he's justifiable as the tight end 12. Again, not as late as you like, but like if we assume. And I think just kind of making those assumptions, that's a situation where I can talk myself into the Packers pretty easily. But it is risky. It's high variance. I'm okay with that personally because I am okay with risk. But like, it's not for everyone. I think that that's the one situation where the Packers can grade out pretty well if you kind of take the discount and assume Rodgers is there, or maybe assume Jordan Love's great. I don't know, whatever it would be. And then I feel bad for Jordan Love. Like the poor guy, you said coming in for Rodgers and Favre, It's even worse given the angst around this team right now. If they trade Rodgers, like poor Jordan Love, man, like going into that situation, that would be just brutal. I hope he succeeds at that point. Prove me wrong, man. That'd be great because I would not want to be in that situation. Now, Ryan, before we let you go, because we got about 3 minutes left here before we transition over to baseball, I did want to go back to Julio really quick, and this is for selfish reasons. I have Julio in a couple dynasty leagues. I don't know what to do. Julio obviously is aged, which means if you're trying to trade him in dynasty, you're not going to get a whole lot in return, which is annoying. But if you had Julio in dynasty, which you might, I don't know, what would you be doing right now? Are you trying to trade before he moves to a lower volume passing offense? Are you trying to acquire him on win now teams? How are you handling Julio in dynasty with the unknowns we have as of right now?
Yeah, I think you said it, Jim. I mean, you got to look to trade him. I think he's going to have probably his highest value in a sense, which is kind of weird to say, but we don't know where he's going to land. I think maybe if you get him landing in Tennessee, if they can somehow work out the money, maybe New England, as weird as that sounds, I think certain situations will just get people excited about him. But I think, from a football standpoint, if he goes to a place like San Francisco, if he goes to Baltimore, it's even the Colts, as excited as I would be about that, I think that you won't be able to get as much from him. He's coming from Atlanta. He's the talk of the town right now. Everybody's talking about him. I still think that you can move him. And we are talking about, I don't want to say he's injury prone, but didn't play a full season last year, age 32. In dynasty, you want to get equity for those pieces, and even if you could probably get a second round pick for next year and somebody else to kind of help you out for this year by moving Julio, because know your league mates, and see what you can move him for. But I would be looking to sell for sure now.
Well, I've been trying to. It has not been successful, so we'll see.
Fair enough.
Maybe he'll go somewhere where I can spin him for more, but we'll see for sure.
Yes.
That is Ryan Williams. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at @RyanAlexander_W. Ryan, I'm going to let you go do some more best ball drafts, and get ready for your wedding, man. I appreciate you taking the time for today. I know you're busy, so appreciate it, and I'll talk to you again soon. Sounds good, Jim. I look forward to it. All righty. That is Ryan Williams. Once again, follow him on Twitter at @RyanAlexander_W. We'll have Ryan on a couple times again throughout the season too, before we get to the season, to talk some more NFL, because still a lot to discuss, as you can tell, before we get set for the regular season. Now, let's talk some MLB DFS for today as we transition over to that portion of the show and take a look at this Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? It's Tuesday. Okay. We're at that point in the week already where I have no idea what day of the week it is. It is Tuesday for MLB DFS, and I think it's a pretty fun slate. And the reason I think it's pretty fun is I would not be shocked if I am viewing this slate differently than others are. I talked in the solo shot this morning about how my top two pitchers for today are Kevin Gausman and Joe Musgrove. I would not expect them to be the top two guys for everyone. Musgrove might be, he's undersalaried, and that's naturally going to lead to increased popularity for him because people love to find values. Musgrove gets you value with strikeout upside, so I think people will go there. Not sure on Gausman, and the reason I'm not super sure is let's pull up the heat map over here on numberFire.com, and the heat map is an apt term given that he is in Arizona for tonight. They tend to leave the roof open. That's not a great thing for pitchers in general. And what that leads to is an increased total for the game, which means an increased implied total for Kevin Gausman. So you see the implied total for him, 4.06. That ranks, like 10th-ish out of pitchers for tonight. We're probably not going to see a ton of people flocking to Kevin Gausman. Also, you add in that his salary is 10.8. You've got guys like DeGrom, Scherzer, Flaherty, Burns, Kershaw. That's a lot of really good options for today. So my guess is that Kevin Gausman won't be as popular as he should be, but I like him quite a bit at 10.8. So when we have slates where we're seeing things hopefully differently than others, that's an opportunity to be different without being dumb. If you can find ways to be different in MLB DFS without being dumb, you're going to set yourself up well for tournaments. So I think this is a good tournament slate specifically. Gausman, the park does lower his floor. That's why I think that it's, again, a good tournament slate for tonight. Musgrove is on the road. He's had some rough starts recently. That could hurt the outlook, but from a tournament perspective, I think things set up really well for tonight. First question over on YouTube. This one comes from Sunny. And again, if you're just tuning in now, you can get those questions in no matter where you're watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, whatever it is. Get those questions in. We'll answer them live here on air to get you set for tonight's slate of MLB DFS. Sunny, what do you think about a Braves stack for tonight? All right. The Braves are facing Garrett Richards. I have tried stacking against Garrett Richards so far this year. It has not always been the most fruitful of strategies because he is limiting hard contact. You see the number here for Richards, 5.9% barrel rate against. League average is around 8.5. So he is about 3 percentage points better than the league average. This is over his past 5 starts with more curveballs. We can pull up the numbers here on Richards for the full season to see if this has been a small sample thing or if we can expect it to continue long-term. Richards, as I wait for my thing to refresh here, 3.72 ERA, so good results overall. 4.64 skill interactive ERA, but sometimes you'll see a skill interactive ERA undersell guys who are getting really good batted ball numbers. It seems like Richards is going to qualify as that for today. So for me, Sonny, I'm not super high in Atlanta. I think we got other good options I'd like more. Atlanta, not a low salary team either. So specifically because of how good Richards has been limiting hard contact, I would say lower on the Braves for me for tonight. Alvin, do you like the Yankees? The Yankees are facing Steven Matz. I think they're interesting. The reason I did not talk about them this morning is that Matz is doing a good job, similar to Richards, limiting hard contact. You see here, low strikeout rate, 21.6%. With a low walk rate, that means he's allowing a lot of balls in play, and we want that. We always want strikeouts, or we want balls in play, I should say, for our stacks. And the Yankees are probably going to get that. So I think that bodes well for Steven Matz. For the Yankees. They're going to get balls in play. The reason I'm not as high is that, again, he's limiting what they do on those balls in play. Matz in the past has been a ground ball pitcher around 49-ish%, I think back in 2019, from a ground ball perspective. 48% so far this year, 6.4% barrel rate. His ERA is high, as you can see. That is something that we can, look at that. We can look at the results, but his expected ERA, which is via Baseball Savant, is 3.84. I'm expecting the ERA for Matz to come down as the season goes along. If you gave me the Yankees at full health, I would be intrigued, but there's no Giancarlo Stanton. Aaron Hicks is out. They've got some decent bodies who are not there. So I think that, Alvin, they are fine, and I think that they are viable. I do not think that they are a high priority stack. That's the way I'd phrase that. If I had to choose between the Braves and the Yankees, I'd prefer to stack the Yankees between the two teams we just discussed, but neither team's super high on my list. Melvin over on Facebook. How am I supposed to compete with 150 entries every day, night, and the same people winning? Why not reduce the amount of entries so everyone has a fair shot at winning? Melvin, there are these things called single entry contests. They're actually pretty sweet. If you go over to FanDuel, go to the lobby, you can search for the number of entries there. what you do, search for single entries. I love single entry content. I think they're great. That means that everyone has one entry. You get one bullet, one dart to fire, and you kind of see what happens. To me, those are the best kinds of DFS contests because I also don't have the time. I like to fill out lineups by hand personally. I don't always, but I like to. I feel like I have the best advantage when I do things by hand. I'm working a full-time job. I don't got time to do 150 by hand. So to me, single entry contests, there are 3 max contests, 5 max, stuff like that, Melvin, I would check that out. Really recommend it. If you're frustrated, I get it. It can be frustrating sometimes. We all go through cold streaks. Check out single entry, check out limited entry. Those are tremendous ways to improve things for you. I understand your frustration, Melvin. Totally get it. Check out single entry. Check out limited entry. Those are great ways to help you if you're struggling in that department. Totally understand the frustration for sure. Jerry, I feel like Tampa Bay stack is great against Keller. Jerry, I agree. Sounds great to me. Brad Keller is a guy who has in the past been super talented with limiting balls in play. That has not translated so far this year. The barrel rate allowed by Mitch Keller this year, I think is 11.9%. Last year, 3.7. So that could mean things will get better. Let's check out the pitch numbers for Keller this year to see if there is a reason things have fallen off a table. His velocity is up. Counterintuitive there. Using his sinker more, also counterintuitive. So it's very possible that Keller gets better as the season goes along. Long term, he's been a guy who's been successful at keeping balls in play against him in check. But for right now, the sinker usage is going down. And that to me says the batted ball issue is probably here to stay. The sample I have on Brad Keller right here is his past 5 starts with fewer sinkers. Let's go to the hitter tab here. 5 starts with fewer sinkers, 20% strikeout rate, 14% barrel rate. Those are numbers we can stack against, especially with a team like the Rays, who are good against righties. 122 WRC plus. I was worried this morning Ji-Man Choi might play. He's in there. So we're good to go. I think that the Rays are a good stack. Now, Alvin had asked about ranking for stacks. The Rays would be actually, Alvin asked about single entry, I think, in a way. So ranking stacks for single entry, I think the Rays are pretty high on that list. I love the Twins, partly because I'm a Twins fan. And we all have our homer tendencies. I'd put the Twins pretty high on that list from a single entry perspective. I think, Alvin, because I am likely to be different at pitcher for tonight than others, I'm okay going chalk and just going straight up here. And to me, the chalk or best stack straight up are the Rays and the Twins. So that's probably the way I'd rank them if I had just one entry. Rays 1, Twins 2, as far as top stacks for today for a single entry. Diffuse, who projects for a safer floor between Scherzer and Gausman? I mean, Scherzer's a better overall pitcher, so it would probably be Scherzer. He's at home. Gausman's on the road. Scherzer, 78 degrees. Gausman, 96. So, from a floor perspective, I don't want to overthink it. It's Max freaking Scherzer. So, if you're looking for just floor, I would say Scherzer is the better route. However, I feel like Gausman has a really good ceiling for today. You see here, 36% strikeout rate since his splitter usage increased, 4% walk rate, 5.3% barrel rate against, and he's facing a team with an 88 WRC plus. Scherzer's facing the Reds, 111 WRC plus against righties, similar strikeout numbers for both teams. So I would say their floors are similar. I would say Scherzer's is higher because, again, it's Max freaking Scherzer. I'm not gonna bet against Max Scherzer, but I would say despite the fact that the floor for Scherzer is slightly higher, I'm still going to favor Gausman for tonight. For cash games, I'm probably just taking the savings and going Musgrove, so that's where the floor conversation would matter more. But if you're choosing between those two, and you're saying diffuse, I don't want to use Musgrove in cash, I want to go Scherzer or Gausman, I think Scherzer has a higher floor. I would still personally lean towards Gausman just because I still want ceiling in cash games too. So I think that's the way that I'd phrase that. Hopefully that's helpful. It might not be, but that's the way I'm thinking of it for tonight. Over on Twitch, Yosh is asking, I'm all over the Dodgers and they're oddly telling Vegas prop odds, low home run odds, hit run RBIs, but I'm not seeing them anywhere. What do you think of them versus Greinke? Okay, let's look at the Dodgers over here and look at Greinke specifically. Greinke, I think the reason that the home run odds are pretty long, I guess maybe you're saying they're short. Yeah, low home run odds. Okay, so I'm probably a little bit confused by that because Greinke is another guy who is really good at limiting balls in play against him. Not volume-wise. He lets up a lot of balls in play because he doesn't get strikeouts, doesn't walk many guys. So there are a lot of balls in play against Greinke, but not many of them are all that well struck. I do want to look at this deeper, though, to make sure I'm not just spewing nonsense here. All right, so let's look at Zach Greinke. So far this year, 5.5% barrel rate overall. Not a high ground ball rate, but it sounds like basically what he's getting is pop-ups. He's not getting damaging long ball contact. Let's check out the numbers here. And the reason I don't want to look at the actual individual single game numbers with Greinke is because he's letting up so many balls in play. And that volume at some point can matter. Let's look at the barrels allowed per game. 10 starts, 10 barrels. That's pretty low. So I think, to me, I'm not super into the Dodgers. I can understand it because, again, it does kind of check the box of we want a guy who lets up a lot of balls in play, not a big ground ball rate guy. But because Greinke has been talented at limiting hard contact against him, they're not a team that draws my eye personally. So, if you have a strong inclination towards the Dodgers, there are reasons to think they could be good. I will not talk you out of them, but that's why they're not on my list, is because of how good Greinke is at suppressing hard contact. Jerry on Facebook, is Giolito a good option, or should be the man tonight against St. Louis? Do you think he's a good option? I love Giolito in general. He has been annoying to me recently. I have gotten burned several times by Lucas Giolito in the not terribly distant past. And a big part of it is the walk number and the hard contact number. This is over his past 4 starts. So he's been cutting back on the 4-seam fastball, trying to lean more on his off-speed stuff, which I totally endorse. Giolito's off-speed stuff, ridiculous. The problem is it's led to a lot of volatility, a lot of walks, and a lot of hard contact. Let's see if this is like a season-long issue for Giolito, though. I'm pretty sure it is. So let me dig into this first before we talk too much about it. 11 strikeouts against the Twins. He can get strikeouts. So, the upside is still there. 10% walk rate overall this year, 11.9% barrel rate. That's pretty tough. I would say that Giolito is in play, Jerry. I think that you can definitely consider him because I agree. The Cardinals are not an offense that scares me. They don't walk a lot. That does help the walk issue with Giolito. They don't get a lot of hard contact. It does mesh up well from a matchup perspective for Giolito. But I think because I've got other guys who are around the same salary, like Giolito is 85. So I like Musgrove more. But like if you want to pivot off of Musgrove, actually Giolito works there. I thought he was higher salary than that for some reason. So actually Giolito's fine. The reduced salary helps a lot. If you want to pivot off of Musgrove, maybe Giolito is your guy. So I'm still not super high on him, Jerry, but because of the walks and the hard contact, but I do think that he is an option for tonight. He's not my favorite, but he is an option. That's the way that I'd phrase that. Let's see here. Mateo, the lineup is not out yet. Which Twins bats do you like? The young ones. The young ones plus Nelson Cruz. I know that's a very opposite end of the spectrum type thing. If Cruz plays, I haven't seen any reports and if he'll be good to go for today. And as you said, lineup is not out as of yet. But I would say we're looking at, let's actually do this here. I'm going to do, because it's the Twins and they're super low salary, we'll go Gausman here. We'll build this one out. I think the tough part is building it out is tough with not knowing Cruz. Let's assume that Cruz plays. I'm going to assume that he plays. Actually, it looks like there's a blurb on him here. Okay, so he played last night, but which probably means he'll start today. So we'll put Cruz in there. I'm going to go Kirilloff. Love the hard contact there. And then Trevor Larnach just hit an absolute tank last night. I want a piece of that. So we're going to put those 3 guys in there. They're my top 3 priorities. 31.60 left for one more Minnesota Twin. Let's go to the Twins here. Check out their numbers versus righties. The reason I like Larnach and Kirilloff is they just got a lot of hard contact. So I think that if you can get that for a low salary, take it. And we can get that with those 2 guys. So they're going to be the top guys for me outside of Cruz. Kepler's banged up right now too. Otherwise, I'd be all over him. Like if Kepler plays, I would say just lock up every outfield and utility slot and go Kepler. He is a bit higher salaried. So if you're trying to stack, I guess he's 29. That's not as much as I thought it'd be. But I'd say if we get Kepler in there, go with him. Sano's strikeout rate has been coming down. I want to see Dean Kramer's strikeout rate, 21%. That's not very high. So let me check out Sano's game log too, because with him, I get skittish when he starts to strike out a lot, which is all the time. But you can kind of tell when the slumps are going to happen because he's not seeing the ball well, not swinging a good bat, not being disciplined at the plate. Back-to-back days with just one strikeout, that's arrows up. I know he has not done a lot in those 2 games, but whenever he's not striking out, you want a piece of Miguel Sano. So if Kepler's not in there, I would say Sano. So Mateo, this is what we're looking at here. If Kepler's in there, put him in the utility slot and use all 4 of those slots and just look for an infield-heavy team. But for me right now, this is where I would go if we don't get Max Kepler in there. Jerry, San Francisco is kind of hot right now. I'm scared of Gausman. Gausman's, like I said, scary because of the weather. He's facing Arizona, and they are not a great offense. 88 WRC plus against righties, 23% strikeout rate. Again, it is a hot park that is bad for pitching, so that's a little bit scary, but I still think that Gausman grades out really well. I get it. Again, I think that Scherzer has a better floor, but I still want to go Gausman because the range of outcomes for him is really, really enticing. Okay, home run call from DePrince. Let's think about this here. I got Ryan McMahon on Friday, double dong. So we got a good streak here. We got to figure this out. Okay, let's dive in deep. Home run call will be good against Tarek Skubal because he lets up a lot of hard contact, but I don't want to use anybody on Cleveland with Frommel being out. So no Cleveland. I would say next up from an environment perspective overall, probably the Twins. Alvin just mentioned the Twins lineup came out, so let's check that out here, see if it's in Baseball Press yet. Otherwise, I'll pull it up. Okay, it is in Baseball Press. Ooh, Kepler's back. Cruz isn't. That stinks. Okay. So I feel like it's going to come from the Twins. Do I want to go Kepler? Do I want to go Kirilloff? Do I want to go Larnach? Sano. I feel like I should go Sano. So DePrince, I'm deciding here if you have a strong lean between any of these guys, like Sano, Kirilloff, Kepler, Larnach, I would say them. I don't want to cop out, though. I need to give you an actual pick. So let me just lock in here, try to predict. Envision Dean Kramer on the mound. Envision the Twins facing him. Envision someone going deep. Who is it? It is Alex Kirilloff. Going deep, not once, but twice tonight. Backup call is Miguel Sano. I had Kirilloff as my home run call Friday, too, as my secondary home run call after McMahon. He didn't go deep, but we're going to run it back. Alex Kirilloff, once again, at least one tater for tonight for the Minnesota Twins. It does downgrade the lineup that there's no Nelson Cruz in there, so I would say the enthusiasm for the Twins takes a slight hit, but it does give us super low salaries here. So we can go with Sano, Kirilloff, Larnach. We can go Kepler there, 3,400 left. That's something we can stack with the Rays, I would assume pretty easily, because the Rays are not low salary by any means. But we got Lau, got Meadows. You can figure it out from there. But I think the Twins do work out pretty well. Jerry says Larnach grand slam. I like it, Jerry. I like it. Be bold. Be bold, Jerry. Be bold. Trevor Larnach from the 7-hole going deep twice. Jorge Polanco's back in there too. I don't think he's had much power this year, but he's hitting the ball decently hard. 35% hard hit rate, 34% fly ball rate. I'd expect the power to come for Polanco eventually. Let's check out his barrel number. I think it's like 5-ish%. It's not great. Oh, sorry, 8.3%. Is that recent? Has he gotten some barrels? I know he's been out for a couple days, but like, is this a new thing? No, I guess not really. He said, oh yeah, it is kind of a binge. Okay. So I'm not picking Polanco for a home run call, but I think that for daily fantasy, like if you are trying to stack the Twins with a team that has a lot of outfielders, maybe you go Polanco at second base or shortstop, $2,300. Oh baby. Oh baby. We're talking there. Because I'm probably going Rays, I'd want Polanco at shortstop and then Lau at second base. I haven't seen the Rays lineup, but oh baby. Jorge Polanco, feeling good. If I had to lop somebody off here, it'd probably be Sano, but I do think Sano's a pretty good option for tonight, given the reduction recently in his strikeout rate. Okay, we have some time here because I can actually do this here. I want to show you something I do with Sano. One thing that I do, and one thing you can do on FanGraphs, a really cool thing that they've added recently is you can look at a split without changing the dates up here. So what you do, hover over the date you want to start with, press shift and then click, and then hold shift down and then click the second date you want. It'll show you their numbers in that span. So I can see with a couple of clicks that Miguel Sano's strikeout rate, since he had a day off on May 13th and then was out of the initial lineup on May 14th, 30% strikeout rate in that time. A lot of power. Let's check out the plate discipline numbers. Swinging strike rate is 14.1%. That's why I feel okay about Sano for tonight, especially because his salary is a bit lower. So I know that Kirilloff was my home run call, but that's why Sano is my secondary call, is because the strikeout numbers have gone down. Batted ball numbers still very good in that time. So that's why Sano is my backup call for a home run for tonight. Any priority bats for the Rays? This is via Alvin. Let's check out the Rays and see if their lineup is out. It is. Jimon Choi's in there. That's good. Meadows in there. Lau. Those are your priorities right there. Choi, Meadows, and Lau. They're going to be the main guys. Taylor Walls, let's check out the salary there because he's batting 6th. He fills shortstop. That's enticing. Let's dig in on Taylor Walls and see how we should handle him in the 6th hole for tonight in a stack that I do like a lot because we can always use more value. I know I talked about how we can fit the Twins in with the Rays. Getting the value there, we have Polanco as a potential shortstop outlet. Walls in AAA this year, couple steals, 163 ISO. He had a 209 ISO in AA back in 2019. Age 24 season. You can get some steals. Okay. Let's see what the batted ball numbers were in AAA before his promotion. It was a 42% ground ball rate, 39% fly ball rate, 38% fly ball rate so far in the majors, over 14 plate appearances. I kind of don't hate it. So here we go. Let's do it. Let's get all these min-price guys in there. We got Larnack around there. Kirilloff's 28. Sano's 28. Kepler's 29. Gosman's no sweat tonight. You can get to Gosman very easily if you want to. Totally understand if you don't want to. I get it. I might be irrational in my thoughts on Gosman, but the other priorities for the Rays will be the high salary guys. So I want Choi in there. He left last night's game early, or yesterday afternoon's game early. So he seems like he's fine. He's back in there. We're going to go Lau at second base. And then I want Meadows in the outfield. If we do that, we're at 2,700 left. That is fittable. If that's a word, that's probably not a word. Fittable, fittish, I don't know, whatever. With the Twins, pretty easily. So these are your priorities, Alvin. I would say I'd rank Walls above Wendell from that perspective. And I think that Yandy Diaz was the other guy who was up there. Noah Rosarena tonight. I do like using him because of the 2 sources of upside. I'm not as high on Diaz against righties because there hasn't been enough loft. I believe his fly ball rate may be on the rise. I think I saw that this morning, where his fly ball rate had been increasing. 26% fly ball rate, still an 0.43 ISO. So that's why Diaz to me gets lopped off. Wendell, power binge this year. Not sure how sustainable it is, but like he's fine. But I'll take the savings with Walls and go down to him at $2,100. So to me, this is the priorities for the Rays. Walls, a really good one-off. You need a shortstop who's low salaried. I think that works well. Wendell, obviously in play too. Like you need to fill third base. Yeah, third base. I think that's fine. So Wendell, although he's not my top 4, would be number 5 ahead of Yandy Diaz for the Rays priorities. Diffuse, how do you feel about Ozzie Albies as a one-off to take from the Braves? I have to remind myself what the Braves are doing. I know I looked at this earlier, so I have a very bad memory. Richards facing Albies. I think Albies' salary is pretty low in general. I am in on him from an upward trajectory perspective, expecting Ozzie Albies to get better as the year goes along. $2,900, I think that's fine. I am more okay using one-offs against Richards than full stacks. So I would say Ozzie Albies, pretty decent one-off for today. I'm okay using him. So diffuse, I think that is a fine route to go. I would say Polanco is a good one-off if you need a second baseman too. So, and then Lau. Those would be the main guys I turn to for second base. Jerry, this is a heck of a slate tonight. I got 3 pitchers I'm torn between Giolito, Barrios, and kind of got a feeling for Burns. Just don't want to blow up. Blow-ups are possible against the Padres, but we can also see a positive blow-up, which is what Brandon Woodruff did last night against this very same team. And the reason that Burns could do the same is because, I know this is like a hot take, but Corbin Burns is kind of good at baseball. He has a 45% strikeout rate this year, 1% walk rate, limiting hard contact. He's disgusting. I Like, I love Brandon Woodruff. I have been a Woodruff truther for a very long time. I did not use Woodruff yesterday, and I should have. It was a huge mistake on my part. That's how strict my criteria is for using a pitcher against the Padres. But Burns, he changes a lot of stuff. So I would say Corbin Burns is in play. He's ranked number 3 for me tonight. I have Gausman 1, Musgrove 2. Actually, it's probably Musgrove realistically 1. Although with Cruz out, maybe I don't need the savings. Maybe I just go Gausman. So Gausman, Musgrove, Burns number 3. So Jerry, among those 3 you listed, I would go Burns above Giolito and Barrios. Barrios not getting enough strikeouts right now. He's been letting up a lot of hard contact too. He's been frustrating at times. Like, his stuff is so good to watch. It just doesn't translate into the best results. So frustration is the word I'd use there. And I prefer to go Burns of those 3. And again, he's not super high salaried. He's 10-2. So a little bit lower salaried than Gausman even. So I think that Burns of those guys you listed would be number 1 for me. That is all the time that we have here for today on this FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. Big thank you to everyone who tuned in, not just for the baseball portion, but also the NFL portion. Once again, make sure you follow my colleague, Ryan Williams, on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. Get all of his thoughts over there. I am at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. We appreciate those of you who have done so already. Make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages to get notifications as we go live each and every day. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. Let's get that Trevor Larnach double dong or Alex Kirilloff. Alex Kirilloff is the official home run call. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.